you both came from a less traditional starting point.
There's a beautiful quote by Richard Rohr, and it says, if you don't learn how to transform your pain, you will transfer it.
I've got a saying, ego's your greatest overhead. And tell Lori, hey, babe, I lost my job. And worse yet, we've been living beyond our means. So I remember I had to come home, and we've got to sell this big house that we just built and get rid of, I put our furniture on Craigslist that we just filled this house with and watched as car after car pulled up in front of the house, in front of the neighbors. People walked in, they bargained for the couch, they bargained for the TVs, they left with our belongings and, had a little bit of cash in hand.
Like pennies.
Yeah, yep. Yeah. Like that'll change your ego real quick. That'll knock you down a couple pegs.
The only way to get confidence is to do scary things all the time. And so the only way to do that is to get really disciplined with doing scary things frequently. It's like, that would be like saying, I want to get fit, but I'm only going to go to the gym, once a month. It really is something that you have to get really disciplined with.
Welcome to the show, Chris and Lori.
It's a privilege to be on.
We're so excited to be here.
I can't tell you how excited I am, to finally get to meet you in person, because we have danced around each other for way too long.
I know.
And you, Chris, to hang out again, because to this day, I've had the privilege of speaking to a lot of different groups, and you made my experience as a speaker to yours truly different, awesome, and to do that for someone who we had never met yet, and for those listening, Chris asked me to speak to his group, his mastermind. I had to be in San Diego that night for another meeting, so I kind of was saying, I can't, but maybe next time. And he said, how about I fly you in a helicopter? And I thought he was kidding. And lo and behold, helicopter shows up, we get on the helicopter, and you flew me in. And it was cool because we had never met, and it just meant so much to me that you went to that extreme to let me have that opportunity to meet your incredible audience and group and community. And so I'm excited to have you guys.
Well, you had to parachute out of it, right?
Yeah, we left out the parachute part.
Well, I won't. If you asked the pilot, I was asking a lot of questions.
Were you nervous?
Yeah, it's the first time I actually ever flew in a helicopter.
Oh my God.
No way.
That's awesome.
I don't have a fear of flying.
Yeah.
But helicopters
are different.
They're different.
Yeah.
And I had just, I've been in many all types of planes. Yeah. Planes, trains, and automobiles. Mm-hmm. And then Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so I was like, of course I'm going to do it, because I don't have this suffocation fear, which is going to prevent me from being real about the true risk. Mm-hmm. I still know it's more dangerous to drive to the helicopter than to fly it.
Yeah.
And so I did it, but I was nervous.
I have a wild story about
Don't scare me from never getting
tragedy that happened with Kobe. So we like to do fun things with the mastermind, right? And for one of them, we rented a whole bunch of helicopters to take off from one hotel in Santa Monica where we're hosting it and fly them to a rooftop in downtown LA where we had dinner ready. So we did that successfully. Everyone's safe. We all woke up the next morning to the tragic news. And it was just like the weirdest thing to have done the helicopters back and forth the night before, literally the night before, like 12 hours before. And then to wake up to that news the next morning was, I didn't even know how to handle it at first.
I can't imagine.
But we all had a great experience, but that was even more like, wow. Yeah. That was
wild.
Intense.
Well, since then, I have actually been on another helicopter, same pilot, same helicopter.
Something.
You
Really?
did, yes. I had to go do
Same person?
Coincidentally. Well, in fairness, they were going to fly me up to Burbank for this TV show thing, and they're like, we'll put you in a helicopter. I'm like, I only fly with one pilot. So I actually made them use him again because Jim made me feel so comfortable. I'm like, well, that's my new helicopter pilot.
100% of my flights have to be with this one guy.
I only fly with one guy.
Yes.
Jim. If he can't fly, I don't fly.
I love it. Let me tell you, it was so worth it. Dan connected us, Dan Fleischman. What a great connector. And he's like, you absolutely have to have Jeff speak to her. Like, he's going to blow everyone's minds. And so when you're like, oh, I'm not sure I can make it, there's always a solution. There's always a way. And so I was like, what about helicopter? And you blew everybody's minds in a way that nobody else has. And listen, a lot of people have said a lot of great things, taught a lot of great things there over the course of 7 years. But you left, and everybody just would not stop talking about how you moved the needle for them.
Well,
and we're talking off air, right? There's a relatability, I think, that makes it easy for people to say, oh, I could see my path to success in watching the path that you've taken, because you stay so humble, you stay so relatable, despite being a giant in your accomplishments. So,
well, thank you. I mean, it means a lot, and I appreciate it. But the truth is, I think everybody is ordinary.
Yeah.
That's the definition.
Yeah.
And we all just figure out that extra stuff to do in our craft, in our field, in our life, and become extraordinary.
Yeah.
And some of us have gifts that others don't, but I am actually the definition of an average. I'm 5'9". That's the average size of an American, and my SAT scores were average. Like, I don't have that crazy intellect. So I always had that feeling growing up, like, oh, I want it as bad as they do, but I'm not going to be a professional athlete like I wanted to be because I didn't have the body, or I didn't have. And so I think it's important that we all realize, like, we can all be extraordinary. We just got to figure out that formula, hence the show. And watching you two and your guys' journey has been, getting the privilege to meet you, and then now being avid followers and fans. And I follow all your content and get to learn so much. It's just both your journeys, because you both came from a less traditional starting point. I mean, you didn't finish high school. You failed out of college. And for a lot of us, our starting point is college degree. Right? And so all these excuses that are standing in our way, or potential glass ceilings that we can't seem to look past, you guys had to start at a point that is even before that could probably be the reason that you're giving why you're not successful today and you're not happy with your outcomes, because something occurred. And so I guess my first question to the two of you is, your confidence level, since I've known both of you, is through the roof. Was it always that way?
Oh, gosh, no. You want to go first?
Sure, because I definitely had lower confidence than you.
I find that hard to believe.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm from a really small town. I pointed it out on your map, on your Everbowl map, and he didn't even know really that existed, or that it was part of Michigan.
Well, in fairness, you're on the left side of Michigan, which is on top of Wisconsin. I didn't know that was Michigan.
Everybody.
Nobody
this is
does.
Everyone.
That's the point.
You're not alone.
On the map, it looks like Wisconsin.
You might have one Upper Michigan listener who's like, like offended by this. But
and I say it humbly.
Nobody else.
I didn't know, but now I do.
Nobody else will be.
And now I'm an advocate for the western half of Michigan.
I think they call that Upper Michigan.
Upper
Michigan.
The UP. And it's actually say ya to the UPA. That's
say
our
ya
saying.
to the UPA?
That's our saying. Yes. Good job. You did really good. Okay. So I'm from that small area. And then also I was raised in a more restrictive religion. So we took a small town. And then I was only allowed to associate with people in that particular religion, which was about 100 people. So my entire life was
the whole
literally,
religion is 100 people.
Yeah, in that particular area.
Okay.
So they have different congregations all over, but we were kind of isolated. So the next one was a little ways away. And so that was pretty much all I knew my entire life. And then through high school, I was homeschooled. So I started actually having panic attacks around the age of like 13 or 14. I watched my mom go through a lot of anxiety, and what we didn't know is at the time she had just had another baby, and there was a 14-year difference between us, and she was struggling with postpartum and started getting all of this anxiety. Well, I don't know if it's because you start seeing that and you're always with your parents and that's all that was around me. It's like all of a sudden the next week I literally had my first panic attack. And so for me, confidence was not even existent. Like, I remember I went back to school after that because I was in middle school at the time, and I started having them in school. So it was when attention would be on me. It was like the second I was called on, or I would speak in public. And the crazy part is I remember as a young kid, I had like this performer gene. Like, I could not, like, if I was a kid, you would be sitting watching me. I'd be like, you're my audience, do not move. Like, you are going to watch me, pay attention to me.
She'll still do it.
I will do that now. I will do that after this. But from that moment on, after seeing that, it's like something just flipped a switch, and I've had to unlearn it ever since. And I can still even get really, really anxious, but I have so many tools now. But the confidence thing was not natural for me. I had to really, really work hard on that.
But what was the catalyst for you to, because I know people, and my youngest daughter deals with confidence issues, and I never had that. So I don't know how to talk her out of it.
Yeah.
What was one of those tools, or what was that catalyst that made you realize that you had to unlearn this behavior, this, I don't want to say condition. I don't know what the term I'm trying to use is.
It's conditioning.
Is it?
Yeah.
Condition? That made you realize it and start to because how do you get confidence to stop having confidence?
Yeah, the thing for me is it got really, really bad. So it had to get really bad for me, which I don't think it has to for everyone. Hopefully they can learn from my experience. It had to get really bad for me until I realized that the only way to get confidence is to do scary things all the time. Not just some of the time, because the crazy part is I would do something scary and it's like, wow, I did that. Okay, I could do another thing. But the gap in between it was long enough for me to get really freaked out again. And so it was like I was always so uncomfortable because I wasn't doing the scary things frequently enough. So I felt like a prisoner in my own body because I wasn't getting over the anxiety. And so the only way to do that is to get really disciplined with doing scary things frequently. It's like, that would be like saying, I want to get fit, but I'm only going to go to the gym, once a month. It really is something that you have to get really disciplined with. And so I started doing scary things all of the time, whether that was entering fitness competitions or putting myself in situations where I had to speak in front of people all the time, or creating really intentional moments where I would have to be leading. And so I did that throughout my career, and it was terribly uncomfortable, but I also knew that it's what I was supposed to do, because when I wasn't doing it, I'd be waking up at 2 a.m. every single night. There's more for me. There's more for me. And there's a beautiful quote by Richard Rohr, and it says, if you don't learn how to transform your pain, you will transfer it. And I was legitimately transferring my pain to everyone around me. I was taking it out on him because I was like, you don't know what it's like to be anxious. You had parents that pushed you to be educated. I'm not educated. I'm dumb. I have anxiety. So we were having fights like this.
Babe, you got to share the chicken nugget fight.
Early on in our marriage, because I wasn't confronting those fears enough and taking more accountability for them.
What's the chicken nugget?
Yeah.
The chicken
What's
nuggets.
the chicken nugget fight, babe?
What is the chicken nugget story? So it was my early 20s, and we had just gotten married. And I knew, I had started to really know what my goals were. I had set a goal to do a fitness competition because my dream at the time was to be on a magazine cover, because when I was little, I struggled with my weight. My whole family was overweight, so we'd go on diets together. And I just thought that if you were fit, you had to be confident. Mm-hmm. And so to me, a fit body equaled confidence. And so I'm in early 20s, and we are married, and we're still kind of going out on the weekends, and I wasn't doing anything that I wanted to do in my life because I thought I was uneducated, so I wasn't going for the jobs. I was just taking all the things I thought I could get, which wasn't, I was working at a drive-through coffee place. I was working at the front desk of a salon, knowing I was made for something so much bigger. So this is the state that I'm in, is very frustrated with myself and my life, and very my anxiety was really coming back in a really big way because I'm not doing these things that I want to do. And so we go out like we typically do on a weekend. And I think it was this was the peak of where I really wanted to do things, but wasn't. So we go out drinking, and it's probably 2 a.m. And what do you do? What do you do at 2 a.m. after you're drinking?
Go through
California burrito.
Yeah. Yes. Well, our version, because we were in the Midwest, was whatever was open. And at the time it was Taco Bell or McDonald's. We went to a McDonald's. I got a 20-piece chicken McNugget. Don't judge me. This is what we do. And so we get home, and I'm sitting
before
on
I don't judge you, what's your dipping sauce of choice?
honey. Sorry. But I did get honey mustard at the time.
All right.
Honey mustard and honey.
Okay.
So, and I had barbecue sauce too. I had them all laid out, actually. So I
ranch?
No ranch. No.
Not a ranch girl.
We're going to discuss that later. Okay. So I'm sitting on the stairs. We get in, and it just, those moments when you're not doing what you want to do, and it's the weekend, and you've had cocktails, and you know that Monday is coming, and that your dreaded life is coming back because you hate what the week is holding for you. Have you ever experienced that?
No.
Okay. I have multiple times. So I am the scaries are setting in, and I'm feeling oh my God, I'm not good enough for anything. Really self-loathing is setting in. And so I'm sitting on the stairs. He says something, probably something nice. I don't know. And I start dipping these chicken nuggets. Why am I dipping them? I don't know. I'm dipping them, and I start chucking them at the ceiling. I chuck them. We're in a brand new house. I'm chucking them at the ceiling. I'm chucking them at the walls. I'm chucking them at his head. And I'm I hate myself. I hate this. I hate this about my life. I blame you for this. I blame my parents for this. I am full on raging, raging. When you float above your body in a fight and you're ooh, that's really bad.
Yeah.
You're going to lose that guy, or you're going to push people away. I had a full out of body experience watching myself chuck chicken nuggets all over the place.
Honey mustard covered chicken nuggets.
And barbecue sauce.
And barbecue sauce.
It was a brand new house, and we
house?
still had the barbecue sauce running
stains,
down
we
at the
couldn't reach
foyer.
it. It was 25 feet up.
So it was a constant reminder of my craziness in that moment. And when that was done, he just looked at me, and he literally said, he's like, you got to piss or get off the pot. He was so calm. He's like, I can't hear about your dreams anymore. And I don't want to hear about them. You either got to do it or like, this is done. Like, I'm not going to be here for this anymore. And I knew he was serious. It was like an ultimatum of, I'm not going to stick around to watch you like sabotage and destroy yourself, because I was in many ways. I was drinking a lot. I was just being like, I wasn't asking for help. I wasn't doing the things that I knew I could do that people were trying to help me with. And so in that moment, like literally, I knew that I had to do the scariest thing, which was face your fears. And that is like to go do scary things, to go put myself into that fitness competition, to go try for that job that I was so afraid of getting rejected from. And that's when I knew I would lose him, and I was pushing away all the other people in my life. And I thought, it doesn't get better in that moment, though. You just now feel like there's nowhere to go.
But that's the midnight, right?
But that's the moment.
It might be the darkest moment,
Yeah.
but it's midnight, so now it's the next day.
Exactly.
So now you have that beginning.
Right. So then it took a little while, but that was the trajectory of me starting to understand what it means to put something on the line. Like, you have to put the money down. You have to put the date down. You have to go find the people. You have to find the accountability. You have to build the network, because what else I learned is I wasn't around people enough to help me do it. Like, I didn't have this group of people who believed in me or cheered me on or any of the things. So your environment is stronger than your willpower. And I learned that I had to create an environment of people who would reflect back to me like that they were doing this too, and that this was normal, and that I could do it too. So this is when I went and found different coaches and people and just immersed myself into a world where I knew they wouldn't let me off the hook.
I have a title for your next book. From chicken nuggets to 11 covers of fitness magazines.
It's going to be a good one.
Because, fun fact, 11 covers. You're on the you wanted one, was your dream?
One was my dream.
And you hit 11?
Yes. Thank you.
Quite a distance from,
All
the
from-
chicken
And
nugget night.
Started with nuggets.
Yep.
Sometimes you need those moments. So,
Yes.
switching gears, because sounds like you came from a family that was pushing you for education.
Well, yeah. So you got to remember, this would be the Midwest in the 90s. And in Midwest in the 90s, everything was about go to college. And if you go to good college, you can get a good job. If you get a good job, you have a good life. And that's just pounded into you. And from a place of love, right? They thought this was the right advice. Except I didn't want to be at college. And I just wanted to be out participating in the economy. Like, I had that drive at a very young age. So I just sabotaged my college career.
Where'd you go?
A little tiny college called St. Norbert outside of Green Bay. And the very last semester, I was there for 2.5 years. The very last semester, I didn't buy a single book, and I didn't go to a single class. And I was on academic probation like every single semester, and they finally said, you're out of here, don't come back. And this is a school that'll let anyone come back, but I partied a lot and just did dumb things, right? So I got kicked out of college, and my parents were devastated, right? And this is the end of your life, what'd you do? And I was excited, because I knew that I could go out and participate in the economy. So I went and I got a job.
You weren't scared?
No, I was downright excited. I went and I got a job at a car dealership, and I learned two things there. I learned sales, and I learned leadership. And I think if you can learn those two things and master those two things, then you can write your ticket anywhere, anytime. And I really leaned on those two crutches from 21 years old all the way on in everything that we've done.
So I get the sales, because selling cars is not easy.
Yeah.
How did you learn leadership at a car dealership?
So I was 3-4 months in, and there was an opening in the F&I department, the finance department. And it's considered a promotion to go from salesman to F&I department.
Because you get the office, the air conditioning.
Yes, exactly. You get to
The
wear a little bit
18
nicer
pages
dress
that you
shirt.
print out. That
Yes,
doesn't make sense even
exactly.
today. Yeah.
And I wanted that promotion. And there was one guy there that ran that department. His name was Ron. And some of your heroes, some of your mentors, no one will ever know who they are. But he's definitely one of these guys, right? And he fought for me to get that promotion, because I was the top salesperson there out of like 25 people, even though I was only 4 months in. And he fought for me and fought for me. And the owners of the dealership said, you're making the wrong choice. And he said, I don't care. It's my choice. And Chris is who I'm choosing. And I watched him do this for me. And I thought, this is somebody who goes to bat for the people that he believes in. I also thought he was crazy at the time. And that lasted. I didn't want to let him down because he fought so hard for me. And I've kind of used that form of leadership ever since then, because that's what I saw modeled for me for the very first time. If you fight for people and if you believe in people, then they're going to fight to show up for you that much more, because they know that you fought for them. So that was one way that I learned it. And then I quickly got promoted when Ron left to run the F&I department. And that was a challenge in itself because here's this young punk kid and all the older adults wanted that job. And I had to run a department that I was way too young and probably not qualified to run. So I had to figure out, how do I get these people that are angry that I got the job ahead of them? How do I get them to buy into me? How do I get them to show up? How do I get them to want to work? And it's just figuring that out along the way is where I learned the leadership piece.
What would you say is kind of the foundation of that leadership methodology or mindset? Because I think a lot of young adults struggle mightily in leadership. I know I did.
Mm-hmm. So for me, it was, I knew I had to show them that I was going to outwork them. And I thought, there's a lot of things I can't make up, right? I'm 21 years old, 22 maybe at this time. There's a lot of things I can't change. They have more experience, they have more everything. But if I can show them that I'll be the first one there and the last to leave, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make their job a little bit more enjoyable or a little bit easier or help them get better at their job, I just went to bat and went all in on that. And I think eventually they saw that despite the fact that maybe they thought I wasn't qualified, I was there outworking them. So they were willing. Maybe I was setting the pace. Maybe I was setting the example. But something in that clicked where we finally gelled. The animosity went away. And it actually ended up being kind of fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sold a lot of cars?
Yeah, tons. I did like a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got into banking.
Yeah. Till the recession.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing.
We've got a great story around that.
So you talk about confidence and ego. You know, I've got a saying, ego is your greatest overhead.
Wait. I need to hear that again.
Ego is your greatest overhead. Think about it. Ego is going to cost you more than anything. It'll cost you more than a bad investment. It'll cost you more than a bad decision, a bad hire. Ego causes you to speak up when you shouldn't, but it also causes you to not speak up when you should. Ego causes you to buy things that you shouldn't and miss out on opportunities because you did. Like, your ego will burn more bridges, and your ego will cost you more than any other dumb thing that you can possibly do. So if you can learn to mitigate ego, then you're going to have a lot easier path ahead of you.
That's so profound. I've never heard it said that way.
Yeah.
It's a great quote.
Well, it came from a guy who had a lot of ego. So it got in my way a lot, and I had to fix it. And I paid the price a lot of times because of it. I was young and arrogant and the whole 9 yards when I was in banking. And I was stripped of all of that identity, all of that ego, when after 8 years at the world's biggest bank, getting promoted a couple times every year, I got laid off. And we were living beyond our means when I got laid off. You know, you're young and dumb.
Mm-hmm.
You think your next promotion, next bonus, it's guaranteed, right?
As an entrepreneur, I know how meaningful it is to invest in the people and causes that are close to me. And on GoFundMe, it's easy, safe, and powerful to do just that. Whether you're supporting a family member, friend, local business, or charity. And whenever you make a donation, you're protected by the GoFundMe Giving Guarantee. Visit GoFundMe.com today to help make a positive difference in your community.
So I remember I had to come home and tell Lori, hey, babe, I lost my job. And worse yet, we've been living beyond our means. And we've got to sell this big house that we just built and get rid of, I put our furniture on Craigslist that we just filled this house with and watched as car after car pulled up in front of the house, in front of the neighbors. People walked in, they bargained for the couch, they bargained for the TVs, they left with our belongings and, I had a little bit of cash in hand.
Like pennies.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Like that'll change your ego real quick. That'll knock you down a couple pegs. But the worst part was this. It was one of those neighborhoods where we were young and we definitely overbought or overbuilt for what we should have. So everybody else was like successful older people. And I'm probably 29, 30 at the time. And it was one of those kind of judgmental neighborhoods. And moving trucks pulled up out in front of the house. And I was on my hands and knees inside filling a box. And the neighbor, Greg, I hope one day Greg hears this. The neighbor, Greg, from across the street came over, let himself in. And he says, or I hear, I'm on my hands and knees, I hear, hey, what's going on? And I turn around and I look up. And it's Greg standing over me. And I said, oh, hey, well, we short sold the house. This was before short selling was even a thing. And we have to start all over again. And we sold everything. And we're going to go start over in a tiny little 900 square foot mother-in-law suite in uptown Minneapolis. And after sharing my hardship with him, his response was this. He says, "You short sold your house. What would you go and do that for? You're going to ruin all the values in the neighborhood." And I thought, you asshole. And to like be on your knees while someone stands over you and does it,
Yep.
just even the physicality of that really drives that in. But I remember in that moment having a moment of, I'm never going to end up here again. Like, this is where everything changes. This is where I don't let this happen again. This is where I've got to figure it out, because it was such a moment where I was stripped of dignity and ego and identity and everything else.
Can we send this episode to whom it may concern to that
Yes,
address?
yes.
Maybe it's Greg.
I'll find Greg somehow
We'll find
someday.
Greg, because
Yes.
I mean that might have actually been a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because without Greg right there,
Yep.
would you have had that same realization and that breaking point? That we'll call it the chicken nugget
chicken nugget
moment.
So I think Greg was the tipping point, but I'll tell you what, listen to your stuff on Craigslist and watching people come in and walk out of your house with all your stuff in front of the neighbors, having to tell everyone, hey, I lived beyond my means and we had to sell our house and sell the cars and sell the rental properties and go start over again in a tiny little mother-in-law suite. That alone will strip you of your ego.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing was being stripped of my title, being stripped of how many people I managed, being stripped of my identity, because it was headed in the wrong direction. And one of the beautiful things, it doesn't feel beautiful in the moment, but one of the beautiful things when you're in that position is that you have nowhere to go but up. And it's like your life suddenly becomes a blank chalkboard. You know, like if this board behind us was just totally erased.
For the millennials, a chalkboard is
Chalkboard, yes. Oh my
say a
God.
blank iPad with a.
I never even thought of that people are like, the hell's a chalkboard?
Got to help the younger kids.
And you get to write whatever the heck you want on it going forward. And that was the moment that we got to choose again. How do I want to add value to the world? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? And I don't think I would have gotten that forced time out to make those choices had that whole scenario not happened.
But in those moments, entrepreneurship is not. I mean, we grew up in the same era.
Yeah.
The word entrepreneurship
wasn't
I never heard the
popular.
word. I never heard the
It
word
wasn't a thing.
entrepreneur until I was in my
No.
20s.
Yep.
They were business owners,
Yep.
and they tended to have a skill
Yeah.
in some craft
Yep.
that was either a family business or something they did for 30 years, and then they eventually owned it. You went from that moment to now being, the
Yeah.
badass entrepreneur you are. What drove that?
So it's almost circumstance. Remember, college dropout.
Yep.
All of my experience at that point was mostly banking, in a banking and real estate recession. So I had not a lot of options, and I had a lot of fear and a lot of unworthiness, right? So worst possible scenario. And a guy named Todd, who had been my boss at the bank a couple times prior, he came to me the day I lost my job. And he said, hey, heard you got laid off. I said, word travels fast. And he said, come over with me and be my partner and help me build this mortgage bank. Now, imagine someone in a banking recession when all the mortgage banks are closing and being forced out of business saying, hey, come over here and help me build this thing. That would not be your first choice. But out of fear and out of a lack of options, I clung to that choice. And I probably chose it for the wrong reasons. But that kind of became my first serious dive into entrepreneurship. Because what Todd said was, he said, we've worked together a long time. I know that what you're good at are my weak spots, and what I'm good at are your weak spots. And I think together we could turn this into something. And he was right, and he was wrong. He was right in that when everybody else was closing their shops and closing their doors, we took this little mortgage brokerage and turned it into a big mortgage bank, doing $330 million a year worth of loans on our own lines of credit. We had 155 employees and stuff. Like, we were on the up and up while everyone else was headed downward. And it was very much because of what Todd said, complementary skill sets. But then the thing that we didn't expect or address was having opposite visions, opposite goals, and opposite leadership styles. And it became so toxic. The bigger the company got, the more this fissure became exposed. And it became so toxic that I just had to leave. So my first exit was selling out to my partners for pennies on the dollar because they knew they had me. And I came home and said, babe, let's build your brand.
And that was the moment too, like watching, for me, going from seeing my husband be like super confident, very like powerful at work, like so good, loved what he did, got to, see him speak and be amazing and going on all these exciting award trips because he's doing so well, to all of a sudden it is like the plug is pulled. I was working at that time, I had started working, this was right after the chicken nuggets, so I went for the job I wanted, which just got me at an LA Fitness. So we started small, but we were at LA Fitness. I was making $6 per 30-minute session. So when he lost his job, I was like, I was doing the math and I thought, I'll be 80 by the time I pay off this debt. Like, really, this is not going to work. So at that point, I started proclaiming to everyone, like all of my clients, telling them I want to open my own gym, because I was doing the math. Like, oh, you're paying how much for this session and I'm getting what? I was like, what if I just found a spot and I could get paid that money? And I knew that I could sell because I was selling packages. I was like the person who was selling the most packages at the gym. And so I'm like, great, I know how to sell like a training package. And so I started telling my clients that I have this dream of opening a gym. And that's the first step, I think, in creating anything, is start telling people what you want to do. Because there was a woman that I trained. She was only a little older than me at the time. She was 27, and she just opened a chiropractic center. So she was like doing big things at a young age there. And she said, hey, I know that you told me that you want to open a gym. I just opened my chiropractic center. It's 2 blocks down the street. I have a completely unfinished basement that you can do whatever you want with. And she said, if you train me for free, you can train people out of it. I said, deal. I was there literally like the next week. And I was training people in an unfinished basement, wires exposed, insulation.
Broken mirrors.
I went and got the mirrors that you paste on the back of a door. I got 3 of them and just pasted them on the wall. They broke right away. I had the little like bands that break and snap you in the face. And then I pieced down those floors that you put in kids' playrooms. This is literally what I did. And I started charging a higher amount of money, because we needed it, to bring them down into this hellhole basement. And as they would walk down, they'd be new clients, and I'd say, oh, we're under construction. I'm building this out. I had no money to build this out.
No intention of building it out.
I was never going to build this thing out, but that took so much courage to even, do these little white lies that eventually someday I wanted to build it out. I knew that was going to happen.
Well, it is under construction.
It was under construction.
Literally.
It's truly under construction. And so I would have never gotten the courage to do that if it wasn't because I looked at my husband and said, I have to, this is where I have to step in and help with this. Like, I can't watch this human. I mean, he really had crumbled for a while, and I wanted to give him his time to figure it out. And so, my parents had gone bankrupt growing up, and it just felt like a repeat. And I remember I had said to you, I was like, we're never going to be in this position ever again.
Well, when you have to tell your wife, like, hey, babe, surprise, lost my job, and we've been living beyond our means, and we have to sell this house we just built, and get rid of the cars, and move, and right? It takes a real special person to, 1, not punch you, and 2, stick around.
Yeah.
Because, I pulled the rug out from underneath her. And she didn't have any reaction in that moment. She didn't have any, she didn't freak out. She was actually quite calm and silent. And I was freaking out. So I was like, the hell's about to happen? And she looked at me and she said, I will never let this happen again. And that became the start of Lori getting into fitness, having the gyms, having the covers, and everything else that happened.
But it was from those rock bottoms, because before that moment, I had options. I was able to lean back on not doing the hard thing. I was able to let my fear take over, because the thought of doing the new scary thing was still more painful than the thought of staying the same. And now something just flipped. The thought of staying where we were at became more painful than facing my fears. Yep. And so I talk about this a lot to people, because I'm like, do we need those moments or not? And so now when I go and do big scary things, I use that so for anyone listening who hasn't had a super rock bottom moment like that yet, I don't know if you necessarily need one if you can picture them. So I actually tell people to picture themselves and let them go really deep on 5 years, 10 years. Picture if you don't do this thing, what is your actual relationship going to be like? Are you going to get a divorce? Are you're not going to be able to see your kids all the time? Are you going to be back on your parents' couch? Are you going to be so emotionally in pain? Are you going to put on a lot of weight? Are you going to be depressed? Are you going to have anxiety? Go and feel those emotions and make them as real as possible, because that is what's waiting for you. And I think I even use that to this day of allowing myself to go, hey, if you don't take this action, if you don't figure this out, if you don't go hire the person that you need and really go find this, where are you going to be? And I think that being able to pull future pain present is one of the most powerful things we can do, so that that's reality. It's just pulling reality forward.
And I think it's also pivotal on both sides, because what's unique about your dynamic as a couple is you're both performing as the entrepreneur in that position, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have one entrepreneur and one not in the relationship dynamic. And I say that because what you just articulated, I'm going into my own world now, and my moment of entrepreneurship. And I say it quickly, usually without thinking about what you just said. And now that you said that, when I was top sales rep at ADP and quit my job over not getting my bonus on because they wanted me to wait for the fiscal year, and I was making six figures. We had just bought a house and moved my daughter and wife, or fiance at the time, in. And the day I said I'm going to quit and start my own company, knowing nothing about it, ego. Yeah. My soon-to-be wife, fiance said, "Are you okay if we sell the house, move in with my parents, and I quit my job?" And she said yes. And that's usually how I end it. But the truth is, she didn't just say yes. She actually said, "We have to, because you'll be miserable, and I don't know what kind of that's going to be." And I think she was pulling forward for me, because I wasn't thinking of it. I was thinking about it with just ego, like, F you, ADP, I'm going to go beat you. Mm-hmm. Like, my own mental side was not thinking about how I was pulling it forward. I went the other way but she was able to do that, and it allowed us as a couple. But you two are both high performers, and it seems like you're both doing, you both have your own independent brands that is explosive today, but at this moment in your journey, it was like you were having just finished your chicken nugget moment and were coming up, but then when Chris hit his moment, it almost gave you the kick in the butt to take it now.
Exactly what it did. It really, when we look at our journey, it's kind of crazy, because it has been so like, he's out there, then I'm out there, then it's like this, and that's been... Or maybe we create that? I'm not sure.
So our seasons have magically lined up so that when I'm on, she was there to support. Or when she had to be on, I was there to support. Mm-hmm. But now we're in new uncharted territory. For the first time in our life, we both have huge, ambitious startups right now. Yeah. So we're both in the season where we both have to be on, and the other person isn't there in their chill season to get the other ones back. Mm-hmm.
And when you say startups, and I'm just going to give a little prelude, but we're talking Frello and Glossy.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. Not Chris Harder brand and the Lori Harder brand.
No. So I'm building a peer-to-peer lending app for small personal loans, Frello. You're building Glossy, the skin routine you can drink. And you know what startup life is like. A lot of stress, a lot of moving parts, a lot of oh shit moments. I would never recommend that a household has two individual startups at the same time, but it just happened that way by circumstance, not by choice, by divine timing, if you will. So now we're navigating this new territory where we're dividing and conquering. We're apart a lot more than what we were in the past. And one of us is not in our slow season to get the other ones back. And that's been interesting. Mm-hmm. And we're doing great, I think.
Well, we have a really good foundation from our past. So we do things like we walk every single day, and we try to walk twice a day. So every single morning we go for a 3-mile walk, and it's an hour, and we don't not talk on the walk. Like, we use that time to really catch up, and we do a couple things on those walks.
We have a cheesy thing called the Power 9.
Yes.
You got to share it, babe.
I'll tell them about that, and then I'll tell them about how we end the night. So we always try to get an evening walk as well. We told you about our dogs. We have 2 big sheepadoodles, Bananas and Bonkers, and we don't have a great life in the evening if we don't walk them again. So even if we're so tired, like exhausted, we're like, no, we have to go walk. And even if we know we have a crap ton of work left for the night, we're like, nope, we got to go walk. Mm-hmm. And what we found is those walks recharge you, number one, for the second part of the day. Number two, I always know what's up with him, always. Yeah. Like, we're not going these big seasons, even if he's traveling, we get right back into our walk routine, and I know what's going on. So what we do in the morning is we do something called the Power 9. We've done this for over 10 years. Yeah. It's 3 things you're grateful for, 3 things you're excited about, and 3 things you're manifesting.
You have to say it out loud to the other person.
So we go back and forth. It takes about 10 minutes.
3 things you're grateful for.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, 3 things you're grateful for, 3 things you're excited about.
Okay.
And then 3 things that you're manifesting. So
every day.
Every single day.
Could they be repeats from yesterday?
Sure,
yes,
absolutely.
Totally. In fact, we do a lot
of
of repeats, and then we see them happen, which is so cool. I'm like, oh my God, this was in my manifest like all of last month and it's here. So then in the evening, we do 3 wins of the day. And so the reason why this is so like this, it's the small things that are the big things. 1,000,000%. If I could write a book, that's what it would be. It's the
Well,
small things
you
are the
did
big
write a
things.
book, so
if
you
I could
can.
write a second book.
So I want fun fact. You did write a book?
Oh, I did. See, you forget. So the 3 wins of the day, even when you're, because I had a rough year last year. Like I got real beat up. Like I had
Rough
to
couple
pivot.
years.
I lost my margins. Telling investors that you're losing money is not super fun to do for a long period of time. And so I would still have to go and do those every single day. And this taught me the most powerful lesson of my life is that joy and pain exist on the same highway every single day. And you decide if it's a good day pending on what you focus on for that day. Because you might go through a stint of your life where for 3 years you are in pain. But you can still have joyful moments with your kids, with your family, with being in nature. You can create these moments. And I think we create these moments now every single day, all the time. So I can have the worst day of my life and still be like, 3 wins. Great. Okay, here we go. And that has been, and with that walk, combined with that walk, it's life-changing. It's literally life-changing.
Here's the best part. I never go a day without knowing what my wife is trying to accomplish or what's important to her that day or how she's feeling, right? Because of this tradition, if you will. And then at the end of the day, I never go a day without knowing what her wins are that she is proud of. And equally important, it reminds me when I have to think of 3 wins of things I did that. You'd be shocked at how many epic things you do in a day that you have totally forgotten about by, let's say, 6 or 7 o'clock. And until somebody forces you to be like, no, come on, name 3 of them. Like, oh, that's right. I talked to this person. I've been trying to track them down forever. And oh, that's right. I got this investor. And oh, that's right. You literally forget those things when that happen in the morning by the evening. So it forces you to recap and kind of celebrate and show each other, hey, look, we're on track and things are good. And I love what you said about you can be on the, what'd you say, the highway of pain and the highway of joy at the exact same time. And it's really which one you choose to concentrate on.
Yeah, it's so true. And I don't know if you know who Mason Sawyer is, but he was a guest on my show, and he said something that changed. I mean, I've never been able to. He's unfortunately had a horrific, tragic life event. His wife and 3 kids were and his brother and his nephew were in a fatal car accident with only his youngest son surviving.
No.
Yeah, no, it's a story that is impossible to hear without crying. But I recommend everyone go. And now he's got this podcast about the 1090. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% what you do about it. But his mental model comment was, I don't have to pick up my kid from school. I get to pick up my school. When you change have to get to, it kind of gives you that pain and enjoyment or pain and joy on the same highway. And I've caught myself having to think about that at times where I'm frustrated as hell and I have to remember, wait, I get to be frustrated as hell because I have a business that maybe is losing money, but it's not dead yet.
Right. Exactly.
Or I get to make this call that I don't want to make because I have a friend that I care so much about and I have to have a tough conversation. And all of a sudden, it does change everything.
Yeah.
It does.
And I would have, a year ago, you would have said this to me and I would,
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have thought more about it till I continuously am learning and hearing about it from, like you just said it, Mason. I mean, and when you start to implement it, it's so true.
Yeah. I feel like life is just nothing but reframing things 10,000 times a day. And you can frame them to look poorly or you can frame them to look optimistic. And I've always been optimistic. I think it's one of my traits, one of my superpowers, if you will. I just see the bright side of everything. But I don't think that's natural. I think it happens because we've always done these small, cheesy routines.
And they work so well. I've heard phrases like adulting is just reparenting yourself every day. Like truly, it really is. And if you think of, I'm not a parent, but I'm a dog parent, so I can imagine you being a parent. Like if you were parenting yourself and your parent could see all of your thoughts, it's like this constant like loving, like be graceful, like be proud of this, be proud of that. Like that is the mindset now that I've adopted because that's the only one that works. I used to have a mean coach in my head that worked really, really well. It worked good. Like it got me to really great positions. It got me winning a lot of different things back in my fitness days. But mean coach doesn't, it expires. It doesn't work for long periods of time. Like, for me anyway, mine expired after about 10 years, and I couldn't get mean coach to like actually work for me anymore. It just now started to feel like I was beating myself up and like sabotaging myself. So this was this way of thinking and like this reparenting and actually being kind to yourself and knowing like if you can reframe all of this works better. I hope for anybody listening, knowing like if you have that mean version of you in your head that works really well, I actually think this will work even better. I've gotten far better results. I'm healthier. I'm happier. It's the first time in my life over like the last 3 years that I actually feel like I really enjoy my life.
That's amazing. And I think you guys have not said it yet. And as someone who gets to meet you at this season of your lives, not in the past, and I haven't known you for years and years and years, one mark to me of humans is the people around them, right? And you both have an extraordinary ability to build communities. I got the privilege of meeting some of your community and getting to hang with them, and the quality of the people there show who you are attracting and how you're bringing them together. And I haven't had the opportunity yet to meet your community, but I've gotten to see it at least from social media and content, and anyone who you ever mention your name, and it's nothing but a glowing list of incredible niceties and admiration, and it's true of both of you. And you know, Dan did introduce us, but when he did, he said, "There's not a better human alive but Chris."
Aw.
Wow.
So
That's so
Dang.
sweet.
Yeah, it's amazing.
and I mean, so I'll say that, and I think it's important because we don't spend enough time talking about, you know, you're both entrepreneurs, you're both badasses, you're both speakers, podcast. I mean, you're going a million miles an hour.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're finding time to give back and create this community and enrich others. And I want to ask, what was kind of the reason that pushed both of you to do that? Because it's not something that is on the forefront usually when you're in the thick of it,
Yeah.
right?
When I was in banking, I flew up through the ranks at an abnormal speed. And I learned early on, remember, college dropout, not a lot of, I'm not a highly intellectual person. I don't have a lot of obvious superpowers. But when I looked at why I was successful there, is because I knew how to choose the right people around me. And when that clicked, it became a mission. And I became obsessed with, I only want people that make me feel good. I only want people that make me perform well. I only want people that lift me up and people that I can do the same for. And I think when you become laser focused on good people or bust as your policy, and when that's what you seek out every single day, and then when you realize if you want those people in your life, that means you have to invest in them. You have to reach out to them. You have to text them. You have to check in on them. You have to be a good, proactive relationship builder, even after you have the relationship, or it falls by the wayside. I just became obsessed with that. And if anything, I think it's as simple as it feels really good to have great people in your life. And once you get to experience that, you want as much of that as you can possibly muster up.
For me, it was, so I was kind of a lone wolf because I was kind of trained,
Fitness model.
raised to be a lone wolf, especially in the religion in the small town and not being able to associate with other people outside of that. So I was very used to being alone. And also I ended up leaving that religion at 18. So I was alone a lot because I had to like rebuild who my friends were because I left. I didn't have that community anymore. And so after I had left, I was very isolated, and I liked my own company until you don't, right? Like you're fine alone until you're really not. You're like, wow, this is a very lonely existence. And so when I started getting into entrepreneurship and personal development, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to have an event. I wanted to be a speaker, except this whole anxiety thing and being afraid of being on stage was really hindering me. So I ended up I got an email. I followed Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul. I got an email from him, and he was putting on something called Train the Trainer. And it said, if you want to be a speaker, if you want to be a coach, if you want to have events, I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
Good old sales
and
copy.
then I scroll down, mind you, this is when we're still
starting
kind
over
of
financially,
rebuilding. And the price tag says $25,000. And I'm like, oh crap, but I'm going. I didn't even know we were going to get that. But I called him and I'm like, so I'm going to go to this thing and we have to figure out how I'm going to do it because he's going to teach us how to become the speaker coach, all of these things. So anyway, fast forward, I go to this thing. It's 3 weeks long, but it's split up from, it's 3 different events a week long each, but it's like 7 in the morning till 11 at night every single night. And you're getting thrown into all of these scary things over and over, like having to speak in front of people. There was one point, there's 70 people there, and I remember one of the exercises, this is so entertaining. One of them was to totally make you drop your ego, and it's right away. Imagine being in a room of 70 people, and here's what you get to go and do. So you have to pick from a bowl something that you're going to act out and you have to be, but you like have to do it to each other, and that's how you're greeting each other. Like you have to speak through this. I got a chainsaw. So
my God.
literally, and then I got a lawnmower. So I literally had to pretend to be a lawnmower and like, and Jack Canfield was one of my partners. So I had to be a lawnmower to Jack Canfield. Yes. And a chainsaw. And this was like initially, do you know what that feels like in your body? It was the worst feeling
What
of
color
my entire
red
life.
my cheeks would be.
Yes, exactly. Anyway, from this experience, because I learned so much, we just deep connection for 3 weeks. And I think that was the first time I realized how lonely I was in my life. Like going, I've connected more with these people in here than I've ever connected with my family. And that was a really crazy realization for me. And so from that, on the last week, he said in his book, Success Principles, what he does before you go is he's like, you need to set up a mastermind. I'm like, okay, what's a mastermind? And so he's like, okay, you need 3 or 4 other people. You guys are going to check in every other week, and here's how it's set up. Like he gave us some parameters. And so I didn't have too many people in there that were doing exactly what I wanted to do. I was more like in the fitness community, and they were just in a little bit of a different space. So I was like, I'm going to go create one kind of with some people in this genre. So I went and found some people it was 2 other women who I had never like met before, but they were all like doing similar things. They had really big goals. And so we decided we were going to meet for an hour every other week, and we were going to give each other, we had really strict parameters. We had 20 minutes each to talk about things that we needed or what was anything that was up for us, whatever we want, like our goals. It was very much to hold each other accountable. I did that for 6 years.
Same group?
Every other week, the same group.
Wow.
And I wrote a book about it. So that's what the book, A Tribe Called Bliss, is about. And so I teach people how to do this, but not just that. It's about learning how to break through in those connections to get to like the real stuff faster, like get to the human part faster. And it is the people who make your life good. And I don't know if you've watched any of there's like a Netflix show right now about blue zones. And like,
I have.
It is literally all about community.
Yes. I'm a hypochondriac. So
No way.
Oh, yeah. So as soon as I was probably the second download.
I was until I went and got this full body scan thing. So my dad passed away, weird random side note, but totally unexpectedly, 2020, not from COVID, but from a heart attack. And the reason why it was so shocking is my dad was like the ultimate example of how you want to retire. He was 72, still had purpose, president of the board of the Wisconsin Maritime Museum, even though he's retired, fit, worked out every day, like you name it. And had a heart attack out on a dock, 9 a.m. one day, fell over, literally died on the spot. So ever since that moment, every little thing, whether it was a chest pain from working out or not feeling, I would go worst case scenario. And it got so bad that I had to do something about it. So I went and I got this full body scan, and everything came back clear, thankfully. And I had to take that drastic step to kick my hypochondria, if you will. So I know it's a random story, but you brought it up.
Which
it
he's
worked.
in our community. You got that scan because it was someone who was like in our network and in our community. And I don't think you would have done it because it makes it so much easier to do these things when it just feels like an ask to a friend.
No, I wouldn't have done it. So I knew for a couple of years that I had to go get this thing, but I kept putting it up, and not until I was introduced to this guy by a friend, and he just took accountability and kept following up. Hey, this is what I do for a living. When are you doing it? Hey, this is what I do for a living. When are you doing it? And that's what made me finally follow through with what I knew I should be doing. You need good people to do that in your life. I'll say one more thing, too, about having good community. When Lori had this bi-weekly mastermind with these 2 other women for 6 years, our marriage got exponentially better because she had other people to turn to and count on, so she didn't expect me to be all things in all ways. And I think that's where good community really comes in handy. Whether it's a romantic relationship, a business partnership, any kind of relationship in your life, you can't expect one person to be your end all, be all, everything. And so when you have other people to plug into for different needs that you have, it makes romantic relationships, everything else thrive that much more.
It allows those people to show up in your life as they're meant to. Otherwise, we overlook what they're here for. Like, you could be resenting someone because they don't like to go on adventures with you and you're an adventure person, even though they're so good for you in business. Like, they just love to talk business. Or maybe you're, missing the fact that maybe your partner doesn't want to analyze everything with you 10 times, but my girlfriends do. But now I can appreciate him for so many of his amazing qualities. But before that, I was like, okay, well, I need this from you right now, and I'm not getting it. So it allows you to let people off the hook for what they're not supposed to be anyway. My girlfriend, Lindsay, who is in the mastermind, she calls it collecting people. She used this example. She's like, there's this mom in the carpool line who I really hated for a long time because she looked perfect and she has like flawless fashion and I couldn't stand her. And then I started making all of these other friends and I realized I want to be more fashionable. Guess who I called? Guess who I made really incredible friends with? And now I love her because I can put her in the box of, you're amazing for me in this category. You don't have to be everything to me. You don't have to be my best friend.
Brilliant perspective. I mean, by the way, if you two ever did like a relationship coaching show, I mean, you guys have the relationship between the two of you. I mean, you guys could really help a lot of couples. I genuinely believe that with the divorce rates and all the things going on. I mean, I'm listening and I'm internalizing a lot of this. I'm learning. So
I think it's because we make it a priority. Like, our relationship means everything to me. That is the nucleus of everything else in my life. So you got to protect that first, and what you prioritize gets protection, right? And so I think the little things that add up, the mandatory, even in the rain, daily walks.
With umbrella or without?
Sometimes we just tough it out.
Rain jackets.
Yeah.
We do rain jackets.
You come back wet hair?
A hood does amazing things. The soaking wet dogs, that's a different story.
Yeah, that's gross.
But these little traditions, if you will, where we don't say that we put ourselves first, but we, in an actionable way, put ourselves together first. I think that's been the secret to when all the other distractions happen. When I come home and say, babe, we're losing everything, no matter what's thrown our way, we can weather that storm.
So relationships, and I know this is true for you too, like when you have really strong relationships and you prioritize those, it allows you to take more risks in business and in life. Because I know I've always got, a soft place to land. I know that I will be loved no matter what. And I think when people don't have those networks of people who, if things are going wrong, they know like, okay, if this goes terribly awry, I have this person who's had an experience like this before. They can help me through it. They've gone through this. When you don't have that, it puts way too much on the line.
Hey, fitness fans, ready to crush your fitness goals? Make your move to EOS Fitness, where becoming a member starts at just $9.99 a month. Gyms are open 24/7 and packed with the latest gym equipment to keep your workouts fresh. What are you waiting for? Give them a call, drop by, or hit up jefffenster.com/EOS to join. EOS Fitness, better gym, better price. Now, let's get after those goals.
It's like, you don't even think that you'd be able to handle it. When you have this group of people who've done it before, or you have people who will really love you, or like, they don't really care if you win or you lose, you can go and do those big things. And I have a podcast, every successful person I've ever interviewed has this.
Yep.
Or they don't just have it, they created it.
That's right.
They created it for themselves.
I speak more in business, but I say it, 85, 90% of all the wealth I've ever created, business success I've ever had is a result of the people I know.
Absolutely.
It's got nothing to do with my skills. It's who I know.
Yep. 100%.
Same.
And it's buying time. It's buying access. It's buying information when you need it. It's buying skill sets you don't have. It doesn't really matter. And it's true in other areas, but I don't usually speak on other areas, so that's kind of my lane. But it's true with people, and I think you're right. It's people who don't recognize that struggle. And when they finally start to learn, and you said it earlier, and it's a genuine thing I do. I have a reminder in my phone because I'm bad with memory stuff. Like I'm just running so fast.
Same.
So I have a little reminder in my phone that I do a random text or call to a friend every day because otherwise 6 months can go by and I haven't talked to someone I genuinely care about.
Totally.
Right.
And if I don't reach out, and they don't reach out. 6 months goes by, and we're both busy, and we'll let each other off the hook. But you know what happens? What happened to our relationship?
I know.
We lost 6 months of a relationship where a simple 5-minute or quick text, hey, how are things? Haven't talked to you in a while, goes so far to make them be like, man, Jeff really thought about me or cares about me. Then they're going to do it back. And now, so it might be once every 3 months that I do it and them do it once every 3 months. And now we're talking every 3 months instead of maybe once in the last year.
Yeah,
Right.
totally.
And then we're like, hey, we need to get together.
I know.
Then we make plans.
Yep.
And this relationship deepens. And I felt that in your community, and I've seen that from yours. And I just want to take it before we jump to the 2 startups that I'm really excited about. I really wanted to make sure that we spoke on it. There's one, I don't want to say it's a quote, but something I heard, I think you said it, about your partner and coach. Andrew.
Think of it.
Your partner isn't your coach, I believe, something like that.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
What it sounds like.
Yeah.
So your partner isn't your coach. And
Yeah.
and it was just very profound in
Well-
that sense. And I think it goes back to what you were saying about not requiring Chris to be all of these things that he can't be for you, how
Totally.
you need him to be.
Well, he's so good in business that when it came to my own startup, I actually in the beginning I would be upset because he wasn't available because he's doing his startup, and I was like, oh, I have to create my own, or this is going to wreck our marriage. It was like a very clear awareness, and he was like, I can't do all these things for you, and I think initially the brain goes to, but you're supposed to.
Yep.
You're my partner. And it's like, no, that is his life. This was his priority. He was very clear on this part. And I also can go and create this in a different way. Like I can go and create coaching for myself, a community, a mentor, whatever that looks like. And it's been even better because, we're also married, and working together isn't awesome all the time because we are both leaders who butt heads. I want it done my way. He wants it done his way. And so that's been really powerful, being able to do some things together that we find really fun. So now we're doing events, some events together that we love doing. But outside of that, we're kind of we're good now. No.
Well, Glossy.
Yes.
I mean, I have one. Can't see it probably because it's far, but I'm excited to try it. What was the inspiration for it?
So I was a hydration packet junkie, and at any given point I have 3 or 4 beverages on my desk. And so one day I was like, wait, this hydration packet that I'm drinking is just really expensive salt. I'm like, salt and sugar. What if this did more for me? Because I also don't love taking pills, and I'm a wellness freak, but I don't love taking so many pills all the time. It's like, what if this did more for women's goals, like my goals? I want really great skin.
Yep.
I want great gut health. I want to be taking some extra vitamins and these other things for immunity. And I thought, what if I could just all put that in one stick, and it would make me drink more water? Because I'm like a toddler. I don't know if that's you, but I have to have flavored things to drink more water.
Yep. Sparkling water with flavor.
Yes.
Yep.
And also there wasn't a brand that spoke more to women. It was either very sciencey or very sportsy. And so this is exciting to me because I want glowing skin, and hydration obviously does that along with the other skin ingredients. And so that's why I started it.
But it is for men too, because I'm drinking it.
Yes.
I want to
It's good.
shine.
Well,
like
look at
him.
this guy.
It's
I
good.
know.
No, really, he's stealing all the packets right now. So.
What I text you yesterday? I'm like, don't get mad. I'm
He's
having
like,
my
I'm on
second
one. And the only reason is because we're I'm waiting for the next
I'm not
stock
giving you
for
mine
us
back.
to come. You can have it. It's
You
good.
can't have this one. This one's mine.
It's funny because I don't drink water. I need to, but I don't drink water unless it's flavored or unless it feels like there's a reason to. And this has gotten me to drink a lot more water, or at least what I should be drinking.
And what's the spirit of the name?
Glossy is for the glow,
Yep.
the glowing part. And Glossy was just literally because I wanted a brand that could house multiple things, depending on where we go with this, and a little easier for trademarking. And I just liked it. It sounded feminine, sounded like it could be health or wellness. So
Do you know how hard it is to name a company these days? Every name's been
Yes.
taken.
Oh, there
Every
don't do it.
variation of a spelling's
so I
been
made up
taken.
this word.
That's
And,
actually brilliant.
It's crazy trying to find something that hasn't been, that's not already on the USPTO. It's nuts.
Well, naming anything is hard.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
going
made
back
up
to
a word.
community, the guy who did all my branding, Eric, came up with the name. Because I had a terrible name. And he was like, I'm not letting you use that name. I was like, thank you.
What was the name?
The bad one?
Yeah.
Thrive Bowls.
It's not terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
not terrible.
It's not terrible because it's on the nose.
Yeah.
but
Drive bowls.
But
I
Everbowl's
like
pretty
Everbowl.
epic.
yeah.
You know, when
She
we
said
were
on the way down.
pulling into this driveway, I'm like, that is a really good name.
Yeah.
Everbowl.
So fun story on that. So Eric, he was like, okay, I'm going to help you come up with a name and some branding. I'm like, fantastic. And, we've been friends, but we had never really done much professionally. So he calls me and he goes, okay, I have a name, but it's not the final name. I'm going to work on some other ones. He's like, what do you think of Everbowl? And I was like, Everbowl. That's the name. He's like, no, I'm coming. I'm like, no need. That's the name. Like
No
the
need.
first
You just
time
knew.
he ever said it, it was it.
It has, like, right when you say it out loud, it's like longevity. It's like going to be around forever.
And then you start to play with all the ever words. And forever, evergreen, everywhere, everyone, forever. But it's like, I loved it. And it was like, and the Thrive Bowls was just not, I don't see Thrive
I do like
Bowls
Everbowl better.
being,
Everbowl was
but
the one.
Glossy hits.
Glossy hit for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was-
So, okay, so now, where are we with Glossy?
we
and what
just
are the-
shipped our first pre-order yesterday, and I
a
just
big
got
milestone.
my very first upload on social
On the way
media
down here
on the way here
from a customer. How exciting.
That is really
from
cool.
a customer.
That's
no,
really
We're
cool.
really, really excited. So
So
yeah, it's
people-
all landing right now.
Can people order it or are we sold out?
Nope, you can order it now.
Okay.
At the time of this, when this would come out, you can, because we'll have orders up in the next week, but
Okay.
we're ahead on this.
So we're gonna all order it and try it and
Love it.
be early adopters and
Yep.
I'll have
be
beautiful
glowing
skin.
and skinning and during like what are you doing? Glossy.
Yeah.
We need to turn that into a verb.
Yeah.
I'm chugging it just so I'm not the ugly guy next to Lori. Do you know how hard it is to wake up every day next to someone with like 8-pack abs and like beautiful skin and all this stuff? I will take all the Glossy I can get to try and keep up.
I'll take it.
Well, congratulations, because I do know how hard it is to be doing that on top of all the other amazing things you're doing, and you're at that exciting stage.
I'm excited. having the really hard year reminded me that we do this because we love it. And even when we hate it, we have to remember that even if you were to get rid of it, like, oh, I'm going to go do something else that's easy, I would end up in the exact same spot in the next year because I can't not create.
I've
Can't
tried
not do
the
this.
quasi-retirement thing twice. It doesn't work.
No, it's not.
No, we always
It's not
play that
humble.
movie to the end, right? Like,
Yep.
okay, so what if we
Every
just quit
time.
it all, and what if we just took the time off, and you have those moments, right?
Yep.
And when you play that movie to the end, you're like, well, I'd probably start a new podcast because I like talking to people. And then I'd probably want to get people together. So I guess I'd probably do an event. And then, I'd probably want a physical product. And you just end up right where
You
you
end up
are
exactly where you
today
are,
when
with
you
the
play that
same
movie to the
problems.
end.
So I've been joking with my wife, like, when our kids are out of the house, I'm going to retire.
Yeah.
And she always laughs. She goes, you're never, and everyone around me who knows me is like, you're never going to retire. I'm like, no, I really am. I'm just going to help other people. And they're like, okay, tell me that story. Well, I'm going to find some entrepreneurs who need some help. And they're like, yeah. And then what? And I'm going to help them with their company. And what's that going to require? I'm going to get involved. I have to know what's going on. So I'm going to have to show up, and I'm going to have to then introduce them to people and
Probably invest in them, like
probably
start a fund.
Yeah, and then I'm going to want to help grow it. And then I'm going to want to try it. And so, yeah, it's just
It's all the same.
But
we
it's
end
who
up
you
right
are.
where we are.
Yeah,
It's
you
who
end
we
up
are.
right where you are.
That's the best way to
Totally.
put it.
So now Frello.
Frello. I'm so excited about
Peer-to-peer.
Frello. So you know when I said you shouldn't have two startups in a house at the same time? I never woke up and said, I want an app. I want a fintech company. In fact, tech is the furthest thing from my skill set. I have no business building a tech company. Luckily, my partner built and sold a large 9-figure tech company, and they've got that end of it covered. Where it came from was a real life act of generosity. And this is why it was so passionate inside of me to build. So back in 2020, COVID, everyone's locked down, scrolling on their phones. I have a personal policy that I won't give in the DMs because I've always had generosity as the core of my message. When good people make good money, they can do great things. The problem is when your show and your brand is based around that, it invites everybody to DM you their hardship and say, I need $500, I need $1,000. And you don't know what's real and you don't know what's fake. So I made a personal policy. Hey, babe, we're not going to give in the DMs. Despite having that personal policy, I was scrolling one day and I got a physical feeling. And I don't know how else. I always feel dumb telling the story, but when I say a physical feeling, like a beam of light through the head into my heart that said, hey, open this message and answer it. So out of curiosity, I did. And it was a landscaper. He said, Chris, I listen to your show. I appreciate everything that you put out there. I'm really embarrassed to be sending this, but I need $680 like yesterday because I'm 2 payments behind on my landscape truck. And if I don't catch up, they're going to repo it. And if they repo it, not only will I lose my business, but far worse, I've got 2 great guys that work for me and they're going to lose their jobs. So is there any way that you'd lend me $680? And so just following this feeling, I'm like, hey, stranger, I won't lend you $680. I'll give you $680. All I ask is that you work hard to put yourself in position to do this for somebody else one day. I believe in you. And that's it. And I PayPal'd this stranger the money. Now, I never thought I'd hear from this guy again. Was it real? Was it fake? Didn't know, didn't care, just followed this feeling. About 2 months later, he slides back into my DMs. And I'm like, here we go. You know the sign that says, don't feed the pigeons?
Yes.
I was like, he's going to ask for more. But that wasn't the case. He said, hey, I just want to let you know what that did for me a couple months ago when you lent me the money. He said, I took the $680. I got current on the truck. And those guys kept their jobs, and that's great. But more importantly, when you said all you wanted in return was for me to work hard to put myself in position to do this for someone else one day, he said that lit a fire under me like nothing I've ever felt in my life before. And I've gone absolutely crazy getting as many new landscape jobs as I can, to the point where I'm now buying a second truck and hiring 2 more guys. And I thought, holy shit, $680. I don't mean to make light of it, but it's not a lot of money.
Correct.
In the grand scheme of things, right? $680 was the difference between somebody going out of business and 2 jobs shrinking in the economy, or somebody catching fire and adding 2 additional jobs to the economy. And I became obsessed. Okay, how do I solve this? How do I get more guys like him and more guys like me? And that became the 2-sided marketplace, which is Frello, lenders and borrowers. We protect the lenders in case the borrower doesn't pay them back. And it's for small personal loans under $2,500. And to bring this thing that I became obsessed with solving to light, like I said, I know nothing about tech. When I say I know nothing about, if our TV breaks, my brother Nick has to come over to fix it. Like, that's how bad I am. But a good friend of mine, Matt Merrick, he had a tech company in the mental health space in Virginia, and really successful guy, built it for 14 years. And when I became obsessed with doing this, he was just going through his due diligence. And you know how bad due diligence can be. He had rough due diligence because he had all state of Virginia mental health contracts and all that stuff, right? So lots to check. And when I brought this to him, he was burnt out and he was tired. And he's like, I don't think I'm looking for another project right away, but I'll tell you what, if you can sell my team on this, then I'll do it. Because what I left out is when he sold his company, he sold to a competitor. And being the good guy that he is, he said, hey team, they're not going to continue your employment, but I will, as a thank you, I will pay all of your salaries for the next 2 years. Whether you stay at home and coast on the couch, you've earned it. Whether you get a job double dip, you've earned it. Or maybe one day someone will come and find us with a project because clearly we work well together. And right at that time, it's like, Matt, you got to help me. So I got his whole team on a Zoom, all strangers. And I pitched them the vision. I told them the story where it came from. And they loved the altruistic side of it. So as of 2 years now, we've been off to the races building this massive build. And we launch in August. And I can't freaking wait because we're taking the shame, the fear, the uncertainty. Like, we don't even use credit score. We developed our own AI-powered risk algorithm. We are changing the game so that when somebody like this landscaper is in a jam, they don't have to go to a payday loan store anymore. They don't have to go somewhere where $500 turns into $2,500. They can go get a really fair bridge, if you will. And we're doing that just by powering people who care and people who have a need.
What a great mission.
And I really think we're going to change small personal finance forever with this.
So 2 questions. How do you protect the lender?
I knew this was the most important part. Not everyone is just going to be like, hey, I'll give you $680. I knew I had to do 2 things.
If you're going to give it, you're giving it. You're not lending it.
Right, exactly.
That was the key.
Exactly, that was the key. So I knew I had to, 1, incentivize lenders to want to be lenders. And that's where if they make, let's say, $50 on a $500 loan, no one's going to write home about that. But if they do that every 4 weeks, that's 10% in a 4-week period. That's 120% return on their money annually. You can't beat that anywhere. So I knew that's how I solved the incentivization piece. How do I solve the piece where when someone doesn't pay them back, it wipes out all their gains? Like, screw this thing, it doesn't work, right? And so I figured out we had to figure out what our delinquencies are going to be, build a worst case scenario model, and then figure out how much of each lender's profit do we have to take to put into an insurance pool to reimburse any lost principal in the form of a Frello credit. So everybody has Frello wallets, no difference than like your Starbucks wallet or anything like that. And we'll reimburse any missing principal in your Frello wallet so you can take that and go make another loan again. Now, you can't take the money out and be like, ooh, dodged a bullet. But you can take that money and go make a good loan this time and then get your principal plus interest.
That's great. That's awesome.
We're excited.
So August.
I know it's coming up quick.
That is coming up quick.
It's coming up quick. Here's the best part. Is it doesn't have to be a massive launch with 50,000 users right away because we don't want to get out over our skis. One.
But it's also, I would say it's a version of MVP.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's a solid MVP.
Yeah. But I mean, you're not at, this is our finished.
No.
I mean, you're going to
it'll
take
be
user
an
feedback.
evolution forever. Exactly. But we're already in beta. So it's definitely not a beta in August either. It's a true MVP. And when I say we don't want to get out over our skis, the number one thing where this could go wrong is if our risk score is not dialed in well enough and we have to all of a sudden reimburse a higher percentage of loans than we expected. So we're going to take that path slow and steady and make sure that loan performance is in line with predictability. And the best part is every loan we do, this thing learns from that loan. So predictability will get better and better and better.
And I mean, not that I'm involved enough to give any, but
Oh, God.
my thought in my
Let's take
head
all of
is
it.
making sure you have both sides.
Yes.
You don't want to have too many people wanting to loan and not enough people asking, and you don't want too many people asking where you don't have enough money to.
You have the
See.
cold start problem then,
Yeah.
right? Like
Chicken and
imagine
egg.
Uber with all drivers and no riders, or all riders and no drivers.
And
Nobody uses it.
either one kills it.
Yeah.
Because you lose them forever.
So here's the best part. We did some surveys. The average person, and we actually took the whales out of it. The guy's like, oh, I'll lend 50 grand, I'll lend 100 grand. The average person said at any given time they would like to deploy $5,000, and our average loan size is going to be $500.
Oh.
So we need one lender for every 10 borrowers. So it's going to be easier to get the lenders than it will be to get the borrowers. The borrowers, you have to fight with all the
Educate.
other fintech apps out there, educate them, and really earn their trust. And
The borrower's trust.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that would have been the case.
I know. It's the opposite of what you expect the heavy lifting to be.
I would have figured you just need to get them to know you're there
Yeah.
and get them to understand the onboarding and how fast can they get the money.
When it comes to money and when it comes to lending to the right people that you want to lend to, we're really focusing on gig economy workers. You really need to show them that you're a platform that's going to be there for them. People have too many bad experiences when they're in a jam when it comes to lending. Either it's a payday loan store that they have a bad taste in their mouth from, or somebody said, great, send me your pay stubs, send me your this, send me your that, and underwriting denied them, so they have those wounds or those fears. Or it just took too long. The process took too long. And they're like, oh, great, another one of these things. I know you're going to tell me I'm approved and I have to send this stuff in. And what we've built eliminates all of that. It's amazing what you can do with tech now. But
That's awesome.
what we built eliminates all that. So instant decision, instant loan, solving
August.
problems. August.
And why the name Frello?
A friendlier loan. Lori named it.
You
We're-
are the name queen.
She is the name queen. Let me tell you. We had all
We
these
had to
other
make
names.
up a name
Your fourth
again.
book,
Yeah.
if you ever write one, which you
The
already
name,
did.
yeah, the name queen. We're flying home from south of France or Italy. I forget. One of them.
Somewhere in Europe.
And getting on the plane, 15-hour flight or whatever.
I don't sleep on planes
She doesn't sleep.
at all. So
And I was freaking out. I'm like, babe, we're this far down. We've already started our build. We don't have a name yet. This other one just fell through, like, your IP search. We thought it was clean and found something we couldn't do. And she's like, by the end of this flight, I'll have a name for you. And sure enough, we landed. We're by
it
baggage
really
claim.
was like 15
and
hours.
she's like, what about Frello, a friendlier
what
loan?
about-
I'm like, that's it. Text my team right away.
You're the name queen.
I love, it's really weird. My brain loves that. Like, give me one thing that's creative and just, it's really fun for me.
So DM Lori if you
Yes.
guys need a name
If
for
you
your
need
business.
names.
No, I don't have 3 days to figure out the name.
Well, drink some more Glossy.
Exactly. True. Very true.
And that's really cool. And I just want to say, as fans of both of you, I mean, it's just awesome what you guys are doing in the space, how you're helping so many people through your podcasts, community, event, masterminds, your books, soon to be books, and now actually displacing loans, which is now helping an entire ecosystem. And, there is concern about the future economy and how, things could be. And so what $680 did for one, hopefully can do for many.
Yeah,
And that's such a cool mission.
that's the goal.
And I want to, before we end, we have a fun segment.
All right, lay it on us.
It's called Rapid Fire.
Let's go.
Ooh, I
So
like
I'm gonna ask
it.
each a question.
Okay. Yep.
You can get the same question. But
What happens if we
1-1.
don't answer in a timely manner? Do we get
Yeah,
ejected from
you
the
do.
seat?
And a bunch
Fine.
of, no, remember Nickelodeon.
Oh,
A bunch
slime.
of acai is going to fall in
We
your
get
head.
The
slime.
slime.
Okay,
You get acai.
That'd be great.
That would be
Just
really
open
cool.
your
Actually,
mouth.
you need to do that.
You
That'd be
do.
epic.
That would be
Who says we don't?
Like a bad answer.
test the 30-second
Okay.
limit and find
Okay,
out.
got it.
Who wants to go first? We're going to go one same question, but we'll switch off who gets to answer the first
I mean,
question.
it's ladies first.
Me. Let's
Okay.
go.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
So you're going to stare into camera one.
Camera one.
Camera one. If you could choose only one book for every entrepreneur to read, what is it and why?
Oh shoot. Do I hit the buzzer first? Let's see. I would say, oh God, it's an old one. No, I got it. Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art. Not The Art of War. Don't do that one. The War of Art. Okay.
And why?
Because it is going to teach you all about the journey of resistance around the thing that you're meant to be doing. It's kind of like resistance marks the spot of what you should be doing. And it really goes into that whole journey of facing your fears.
Mine's easy, and it might surprise you. Tuesdays with Maury. Have you ever read this?
No.
Oh God, it's so good. Okay, here's why you got to read Tuesdays with Maury. I try to read it every year. I'm probably averaging every 2 years. Is the first book I read when I read 30 books in 30 days. It's a different story, but it's a story about that reminds you the important things in life. When you're busy, when you're distracted, when you're building your business, when you're raising your family, all these distractions can really kind of take you off course. And Tuesdays with Maury is this beautiful story where a guy is reminded of the importance of carving out intentional time for the people that you care about and how that in turn can reward you.
The next time we speak, I'll have read both those books, and we're going to have a conversation about it.
So good. You're gonna love it.
Yes.
All right. You get to go first now.
All right, let's go.
Okay. What's one daily habit you believe has contributed the most to your success?
Exercise. I won't go a single day without some kind of exercise, moving my body, starting my day with it. I don't even have to try anymore. It is my default to get out there and sweat and move my body or get some physical activity. I'm not the same person if I don't do it.
Walking or running, either one. But at this point in my life, I'm just so much walking. I get all of my answers. I've decided that walking is a meditation, so I don't necessarily have to meditate if I don't want. Say prayers on the walk. I get everything from walking.
Can I add one more?
Please.
A daily mantra. I wake Lori up every single morning to I'm happier, healthier, wealthier, and more fit than I was yesterday for like, what, a decade? And, you know, sometimes I wake up first and I'll be like, babe, I'm happier, healthier, wealthier, more fit than I was yesterday. And I make her say it back to me.
Because I don't wake up as happy.
Yeah.
as he is.
Yeah.
He's
And she
like
wakes
this
up, she's like,
happy
I'm
all-
happier,
he really
healthier.
is
And
this
I'm like,
happy all
say
the
it
time.
like you mean it. And then she has to say
I'm
it back to me like she
"I'm
means it.
happier, healthier."
While she's hitting you with the pillow.
Yes,
Yes.
literally.
He makes me say it until I say it like
Yeah.
normally, and that's annoying.
Okay, the last question. I'm going to let
Okay.
you guys decide who goes first. What is the biggest misconception about your guys' relationship?
Ooh, I love this one.
Oh, I'm gonna let you go first. I gotta think.
I think outside looking in, I hear a lot of people say, oh, you guys have a perfect relationship. Oh, you have a great relationship. Listen, we have the same number of fights, the same number of challenges, the same number of flare-ups, the same number of everything else that anybody else has, I'm guessing. But we have a policy that is called smoke, not fire, meaning because of the daily walks, because of the daily check-ins, because of the way we operate, we're going to put things out when it's just smoke, not when it's turned into a raging forest fire. And I think that's saved our ass over the last 19 years.
I think it's that we just get along this well, and it's not that we get along this well. It's that we have all of the things in place in our life to make sure that we keep getting along and growing. Growth is a super. It's a priority for both of us to always be growing. And so I think the thing is we've decided that we are both responsible for our own happiness. And if for any reason we're, not taking care of ourselves or we're very unhappy for a long period of time, like we give each other, we're like, look, if you're this way for 3 years and you don't change, like we have free tickets to get out of here.
Yeah.
Because we know it's our responsibility to continue to grow and stay in the relationship if you want to be in it.
Like unpopular opinion, but we've literally made that agreement. If we ever stop trying for the other person and it becomes a pattern, a habit, the other person has carte blanche to be like, peace, I'm out of here. And that keeps me on my toes to know I have to be my best version of myself, a growing version of myself, and someone who earns her every single day.
Well, that was a great answer.
Pressure's on.
No,
I answered it.
that was both of yours. Yeah.
No, I meant to keep growing.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Or I'm out of here.
Yeah. But we're good for the day.
Yes. We're sticking
good
together for today.
We grew today.
We got 24 hours more.
We're
still have a
okay.
walk
We got to
tonight.
figure it out tomorrow.
We still have a walk.
We got to
tonight.
go walk around Billie Jean's.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you both because this was an awesome episode.
I had so much
I
fun
learned
with
a
you.
ton.
This is so much
This
fun.
just felt really fun.
I know. I wish we could. You know what? We're going to do it again at some point.
I love
I
that.
love that.
Yeah.
I love
Good.
that.
We're gonna-
Whenever.
yes, and we're going to keep expanding our relationship.
Yes, that's a
and for
priority.
those watching and getting to meet them, if you guys don't already know this power couple, you need to go to chrisharder.me and loriharder.com
Correct.
and get involved with them because I'm telling you, they are both nuggets of knowledge. I have learned a ton. I've enjoyed getting to meet and hang with you, Chris, and finally getting to meet and hang
I
with
know.
you.
I'm so glad.
And I'm excited for all the future and
Yeah.
anything that, us and the Jeff Fetcher Show, the community can do to support we want to. So we're going to order Glossy so she is sold out. And we're going to download the app in August
I love it.
and pass that around.
I love it.
And thank you guys.
No, thank you. It means
so
a ton
fun.
having us
this
on.
was an absolute blast.
I just want to echo to you what you said about the relationship. It's one of the ones I'm most excited to grow going forward.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, first I want to thank all of you for tuning in. And if you guys haven't heard about my new book, Relationship Bank Account, click the link in the show notes or search the title on Amazon. This book is packed with all my secrets to success in both relationships and life. Make sure to pick up a copy, and if the book helps you on your journey, let us know by leaving a review. I appreciate all of you and can't wait to see you on the next one.